All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to talk about something that, let's be honest, we all wrestle with, that feeling of stepping outside our comfort zone. We'll get into the psychology of why it's so incredibly important for our growth.
But first, I want to ask you something directly. And I mean, really think about it for a second. When was the last time you did something that truly scared you, but looking back now, you feel this rush of pride? You got something? Okay, good. Hold on to that feeling, because it's pretty much the key to everything we're about to unpack.
So, why is it so darn hard to take that leap in the first place? Well, it all comes down to our wiring. Our brains are fundamentally programmed to seek out what's safe and what's familiar. It's a survival thing. And this safe space, that's what we call the comfort zone. The best way to think of it is like a cozy blanket, you know? It's warm, it's predictable, it feels totally safe. There are no surprises under that blanket, and our brain absolutely loves that. And here's what's actually going on inside your head. The second we even think about peeking out from under that blanket, a little part of our brain called the amygdala just goes haywire. It's our internal alarm system, and it's what triggers that whole fear response. The anxiety, the sweaty palms, you know the drill. But here's the crucial part. While that blanket feels amazing and safe, real growth, it just never happens there. In fact, every single time we back away from discomfort, we're basically reinforcing this idea in our brain that the unknown is dangerous. We're literally training ourselves to keep our world small.
So let's make this real for a second. What's one thing you know you've been putting off simply because it feels uncomfortable? Maybe it's that tough conversation you need to have, or maybe it's signing up for a class where you won't know a single soul. Just naming it, that's the very first step out from under the blanket.
Okay, so if staying comfortable means staying stagnant, how do we actually move forward? Well, psychologists have kind of mapped out this whole journey, and it's not just a simple on-off switch between comfort and discomfort. It turns out there are actually three distinct zones. So look at it this way. On one end, you've got the comfort zone. It's safe, it's predictable, but nothing really changes there. On the complete opposite end is the panic zone. This is where a challenge is just so overwhelming that our brain pretty much shuts down. You don't learn anything there. The sweet spot, the target we're aiming for, is right in the middle, the stretch zone. Yeah, it feels uncertain and challenging, but that is exactly where the learning and the growth happens. And this is just so important to get right. The goal isn't to take a giant, terrifying leap from the couch straight into the panic zone. Nope. It's all about taking one small, manageable step out of your comfort zone and into that stretch zone. That's where all the magic is. Now, theory is one thing, but let's see how this actually plays out in a real person's life. This is a story about what it looks like to find that stretch zone and how courage can become a muscle you build over time.
So, let me introduce you to this guy who was absolutely, completely terrified of public speaking. And I'm not talking about just a minor dislike. For him, it was a deep, genuine fear.
Just the idea of standing up in front of a crowd was enough to trigger a physical reaction. Sweaty palms, the whole deal. His comfort zone was, you could say, anywhere but on a stage. But one day, he decided to take that small stretch. He signed up for a local storytelling night. And you know what? It was just as hard as he thought it would be. He got up there, his voice was shaking, he stumbled, he stammered, his mind went blank. It was not a perfect performance by any stretch of the imagination. But then, the turning point. When he finally finished, the audience applauded. And in that one moment, that feeling of surviving it, of being accepted, something inside him just shifted. He'd faced the fear, and he had made it through to the other side. Now check this out. This is the result of that one single stretch. Just months later, this same guy wasn't just speaking in public, he was leading workshops. Now the fear, it didn't just vanish into thin air. But his experience, his confidence, his courage had grown so much bigger that the fear just didn't have the same power over him anymore. And his story really leaves us with a powerful question, one that's worth thinking about. Which of these two is actually scarier? The temporary sting of trying and maybe failing, or the permanent regret of never even giving it a shot in the first place? So, how do we take all this and actually apply it to our own lives? Let's break down a simple, practical toolkit that you can use to start exploring your own stretch zone, like right now. Okay, here are 4 key things to get you started. First, and this is probably the most important one, start small. Don't try to conquer your biggest fear tomorrow. Just take tiny, daily micro risks. Second is a really cool mental trick called reframing fear, and we'll dig into that in a second. Third, get a partner. Tell someone your goal. It makes you way more likely to follow through. And finally, celebrate the progress. You have to acknowledge every little win, no matter how small it might seem.
Let's really focus on that second point for a moment, because this little cognitive trick is unbelievably powerful. The next time you feel that jittery, anxious energy before a challenge, instead of thinking, I'm scared, try telling yourself, I'm excited. And the reason this actually works is pretty fascinating. On a physical level, your body's response to fear and excitement is almost identical. Your heart rate goes up, you get a rush of cortisol, the physical feeling is the same. The only real difference is the story you tell yourself about that feeling. You get to decide.
So, I really want to leave you with this idea to chew on. We've all been taught to see discomfort as a bad thing, right? A warning sign telling us to retreat back to that cozy blanket. But what if we flipped that script entirely? What if that uncomfortable feeling is actually a compass, pointing us exactly where we need to go? Because when you boil it all down, this isn't about becoming some kind of fearless superhero. It's about accepting that fear is probably always going to be part of the equation. The real goal is just to build our courage to make it bigger than our fear by choosing to take one small, manageable stretch at a time.